Hey guys, let's get started on tonight's lecture. I'm going to be honest with you right here from the start. Um, Much of this is um, common sense, and um, the PowerPoint is so detailed with information. There's really not a whole lot I need to add to the PowerPoint, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through this. It's a lot of slides, but the information is there. It's not hard. There's not a lot of big concepts to get. So we're just going to kind of move through this. I'll explain things as I need to. I'm going to be doing a lot of reading the slides because there's not a whole lot to add to it. So I apologize for that. I don't like to do that usually, but like I said, there's not a whole lot to add to what's already on here. So let's get started, and I won't keep you too long tonight. Um, all right. So another motivation that we're going to go through is the need to belong to others, belong to a group. Um, this is just some people's thoughts, saying that we need to belong with friends, community, um, and again, here's Abraham Maslow, our friend, and he just says we need to belong to others. Belonging refers to being connected to others, uh, part of a group or family or community. Um, there are a lot of reasons that we need to belong. Evolutionary perspective says that we need to belong to others or seek bonds because it aids in our survival. You know, the more people around, the safer we'll be. Hunting and sharing food, um, dividing labor, emotional support, helping with caregiving, all those things helps protect us and helps aid in our survival. So that is, at least from an evolutionary perspective, a need for us to belong. Um, so balancing, um, oops, sorry, balancing bonding with other needs. Um, as humans, we have a need to belong with others, but we also have a need for individualism, especially in the Western society. So we have a need to belong, but also to be autonomous, and that can cause some tension that we just have to deal with sometimes. Um, but belonging tends to build self esteem and can prepare us to be uh, more of an individual. Uh, Belonging to others leads to friendships, being loyal to groups and to families. However, it can also cause us to lose our individualism, changing our appearance to get acceptance. I always laugh at at groups of people who think that they are um, such individuals and so different, and the first thing they do is like all hang out together uh, to where they look alike. I don't know. I just find that funny sometimes. Um, on a more serious side, people will stay in abusive relationships because they feel so loyal to the person. They feel like they can't leave. And people will join gangs, be parts of violent organizations because they have such a need to belong to a group. Um, and on the far extreme, you can see this in cults, where people want to belong to a group. Children who are taken away from their primary caregivers um, oftentimes have a hard time forming attachments in adulthood. Um, we, we see kids that have been removed from homes or whose parents have died. Uh, a lot of times, when they've died as small children, especially, they have trouble attaching to other people. Being ostracized and cut off from social contact can lead to actual physical pain for people. And they can find resilience and relief from pain by building social connections. So even people, if they're ostracized, if they can come back and build some social connections with people, it makes them feel better. All this is just to say it's important to human beings to connect with each other. A new trend, not new to you guys, but in the aspect of new to society in general, over the last 10 years or so, social networking has literally changed the way the world communicates with each other. It's been a huge shift in society. It's changed the entire world, changed how we interact with each other. Obviously, Facebook. It's funny. I'll see older people say, kids today, they just don't talk to each other. They never communicate. And my grandmother would say that. Kids, we used to write each other. Kids never write each other. And I would say, Grandma, kids today write each other nonstop. It's just over their phones and the computer, but they're always communicating and always writing each other, always sending pictures to each other. And so it's just a different way of communicating that a lot of times older generations don't understand as much because they didn't go through it. What I think is going to be interesting is to see how this changes the older generation in terms of when you guys become the older generation. All of a sudden, we're going to have senior citizens that are still FaceTiming each other and texting and stuff like that. And I'm curious to see if it's going to alleviate some of the loneliness that we see in senior citizens now. If when you guys get older, we won't see that as much, and will that have an effect on dementia and stuff like that? If we stay connected, maybe we'll see people's brains working in a productive manner. So anyway, that's some commentary there, some philosophical thought in terms of social connections. We also have this idea with social connections that we can almost create a version of ourselves that we want the world to see. And people only tend to post their highlights online, and so sometimes there's a problem where we think everybody else's life is perfect because we're only seeing the good things. And I think if we really think about it, we know that's not true. All right, so we're going to move on to another area of motivation, which is work. We all have a desire to work. You may not agree with that, especially if you have a lot of work, but as human beings, we do love to work. One of the reasons, again, go back to Maslow, income from work helps us meet some of those basic needs, such as shelter. Some people are driven by what's called achievement motivation. Achievement motivation is when people have a need to have regular goals set and be evaluated and be told, okay, you're doing a good job with this. They need that feedback from their bosses. And they need to be able to set goals, accomplish the goals, and get feedback about how they accomplish them. So that's achievement motivation. One aside here, I really want you guys to pay attention to a lot of this stuff. Again, a lot of it's common sense, but a lot of you guys are going to be bosses one day or in charge of a lot of people. This is important stuff to know, so I encourage you to go back and look at this PowerPoint just in terms of what makes a good employer. In some cases, goals and activities of work can feel like a calling, where it's fulfilling a useful social role. And it's wonderful if you can feel like your job is a calling, because then you feel like you're really making a difference in the world. Um, and some people see uh, when they're in the workplace, get into what they call the flow, and um, just a feeling of being purposely engaged or deeply immersed and challenged is what they call the flow. I'm gonna skip that. Um, Three different types um, of psychological work in the workplace. One is personnel psychology, the other is organizational psychology, and the third is human factors psychology. If you want to make a lot of money in psychology, go into organizational psychology. Um, Organizations will pay people a lot of money to go in and teach them how to make their businesses work better. It may be hard to find a job. A lot of it's independent contracting and stuff like that, but these people make a good amount of money. All right, so let's look a little deeper into this. I'm going to fly through some of this stuff. Personnel psychology. These are people who hire people and evaluate them and find the right people for the right job. So they select and place employees, train and develop employees, and they appraise their performance. This is like your human resources directors and people like that are personnel, working personnel. So personnel psychologists can help find the right person, analyzing the content of the job, developing tools to test potential employees and see if they fit, and they also help optimize worker placement and promotion. Trying to find people's strengths and put them in the right place. That's pretty much what they do. So, how do they do this? They give them aptitude tests. They will give them work samples. They look at past job performance. But despite all the stuff they do, a lot of times employers still rely on just an informal interview. They think they can get a feel for the applicant. Unfortunately, they misjudge. They're overconfident in their ability to get the right feel for somebody. Um, some of the problems is in doing this and trying to read people is they tend to value people's intentions instead of rather their habits. They neglect to recall bad reads, such as past interviewees who failed or quit. They see the interview behavior as a predictor of job behavior. They don't realize that people just BS in interviews all the time. I used to do interviews at the last place that I worked at the therapeutic boarding school, and I mean, people just lie in interviews. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Some people are just really good at giving you a bunch of BS. And using prejudgments to interpret interviewee behavior. Just they may not like a certain type of people. Somebody might come in who's a redhead, and they don't like redheads, so they've prejudged them. Um, so those are some of the errors that cause people to overestimate their ability to read people. A structured interview is the better way to go. It's not just a conversation, but it's an objective way of assessing a person's strengths and weaknesses. Well, let's move on from that. The personnel psychologist will also train and develop employees. Um, Design training programs, things like that. We're going to keep going. A lot of this I don't really need to make comments on. It's just straightforward. you can just read that in your PowerPoint. I encourage you all to go over the PowerPoint, just read through all this. Very self-explanatory stuff. This, in terms of feedback, I think is some of the best ways to for someone to be appraised is they get appraisals from about their performance from all sources. So even if you were, let's say you're Mr. Roach, and you're getting um, an appraisal as the director of the upper school, you would get people to give you feedback. Maybe the people that are your direct peers. You would get people that are under you, like maybe the teachers, parents. You would rate yourself, and he would get ratings from like Mr. Whitworth, who's the head of the school. So you doing this kind of 360 feedback allows you to get an overall view of how you do. Okay, this is important. Some errors in performance appraisal. One is halo errors, where someone, basically this is saying that someone likes you, and so they don't see the bad things that you do. I've actually been the benefit of this. It's great. Someone just, I used to have a boss that just thought I hung the moon, and they had a hard time seeing my weaknesses. They just, when they would do evaluations, even in areas I knew I was weak on, I would get good scores because they had this false sense of how good I was at my job. Now, I didn't tell them. I enjoyed having them have that halo error in my favor. Leniency or severity errors, when one's appraisal of employee is too generous or too harsh on all evaluations. And also a recency effect, where focusing only on easily remembered recent incidents rather than a full year of performance. So if you've just recently done something really good, they may not remember what you did bad in the past, and vice versa. All right. I'm going to skip that. Organizational psychologists, goals of organizational psychology. You can read it there. Maximize motivation, understand organizational structures and dynamics, facilitate organizational change, improve teamwork and leadership. People will pay big bucks for you to come in and do this in their companies. Grit, just kind of talking about working hard and being motivated to do your best at all times. Little quote, Thomas Edison: genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. Just being willing to work hard. Talent itself can be a result of perseverance. According to the 10-year rule, it takes about 10 years of hard work to become a skilled expert in any field. Kind of interesting. Employees who are satisfied in an organization are likely to stay longer. Employees who are I'm sorry, dadgummit. Employees who are engaged in the workplace, or more more connected, passionate, and energetic, tend to get more done. A lot of that's just common sense. Three levels of employee engagement. Many employees are engaged. Some are not engaged. They show up and just get their work done. and others are actively disengaged, and you see this in any workplace. Uh, Organizational psychologists find that people who are most engaged in work are most engaged when they know what's expected of them, and you can read the rest. Have opportunities to excel, have opportunities to grow and develop in the job. These are all very important things in terms of if you're running a company, you need to know these things. Also, if you got people that are actively disengaged, you just need to get rid of them. Those people are not going to become engaged. In managing employees, identifying the strengths and giving positive feedback is important. This is a picture of a guy named Larry Brown, who's just a very good basketball coach in college and pros. He's known for being positive all the time. He tries to give 4 or 5 positive comments for every negative one. This is just about using people's strengths. Again, self-explanatory. Task leadership, social leadership, transformational leadership. You can read there what those are. Again, just go back to your PowerPoint for this. Finally, human factors psychology. This is a really interesting form of psychology because it it is looking at things. Here, scissors, a mouse, spray paint can. Think of your iPad or whatever. These people take these things, look at the design of them, and try to figure out how to make them user friendly. How to make them where you just pick it up and you just kind of know how to. It's intuitive. You know how to work it. And so they're just trying to make things that we work with on a daily basis, making them more easy to use. Here's an example of a measuring cup, which I've never seen one of these before, and I think it's really cool. Where it took a problem that you had somebody might have with a regular measuring cup, and they made it to where you could see how much you measure by looking down at it. So that's what human factor psychologists do. It's a pretty cool field. In summary, areas of human motivation include eating, sex, belonging, and work. They're all internal drives. They have internal drives and they give external rewards. So that is kind of the summary of it. Understanding motivations is part of understanding the way people engage with the world. We're done with the chapter, guys. I know that was long. I'm sorry, but we're done with it. Study your vocab words, and thanks for listening.